Hey, how's it going? Today is 5th of July, Friday, and we are taking a look at the market, what kind of opportunities we can find. Since the UK's elections are over, we can take a look at some important facts that most likely everyone already knows about. So it's not necessarily news, but I would still be interested in taking a look at it. First, we can touch on perhaps Rishi Sunak's final speech as a prime minister, which might be important as well. I'll touch on it for people to track what's happening, for perhaps from not necessarily from UK, since there are everywhere there are different people and they're perhaps wondering what's happening in UK, right? So we can touch on the speech if it's worth the time of reading it. I know if it's something you might be interested. I think when it comes to performance, uh, I would rate it. I don't know. Everyone has its own opinion. I think he did a lot, right? So once that been said, we can take take a look at perhaps Labour's Party and its manifesto and what kind of information we can find there. Since it's already been decided and votes been counted, so we can progress in taking a look at what are the plans and our strategy for the future of the Labour Party, right? Information that we're going to be taking a look at that will be official parties website and that will be Labour's Party Manifesto 2024, our plan to change Britain. Something that was published some time ago. So, but either way, or others perhaps might be interested in reading this kind of information before voting. I thought since it's already been done, we can take a look at what plans. So we're not necessarily supporting anyone, but we're looking to understand it, right? So this might be a different perspective for coming into this. Okay, so we have layout. So within the layout, we can potentially take a look at different areas of interest, right? Let's try to stick with just over perhaps 10 minutes, so we not necessarily would have enough time to cover all points. Perhaps we can skip quite a few of those and better understanding what the strategy would be. We can touch on the main points and what would potentially can bring more value, right? But not necessarily that's not necessarily only things what are important, but perhaps from business perspective, but there might be a lot of people who perhaps have kids, all this kind of thing. So they might be looking for different information, but we have limited time, and we're gonna look for value, like a monetary value, right? It's not only one way to measure things, right? But once that is said, we can take a look at some of those points, right? Okay, so let's run because we otherwise we won't gonna have enough time. But perhaps it would need to be carefully studied, and if those people who's been elected will stick to this plan, so that would be how in depth would many people would study this plan, as well as if people would actually follow what they would set to do, right? Since let's see, right? So that would be 6 steps. First one, deliver economic stability, which would be important. That would come with political stability and predictability. Step two, cut NHS waiting times. We can touch on that and see how we can solve this problem. So there was a company who was hired for £1 to do this bit. Perhaps we can do the same. Let's see if we can reach out to a couple of people and let's see if we can get the contract for reduced waiting times. Since there's a lot of things happening within the space and it might be important, perhaps we can do something. Launch new border security command. Okay, okay. There's something going on there, right, with stopping the boats, all those kind of things, right, as well as issuing visas and all seasonal workers and the introduction of 10,000 potential poultry workers as well in order to cope with increasing demand, right? From there, step four, step up, upgrade Britain's energy. Would I personally believe that would be very important, right? And there is more action that could be taken when it comes to reducing costs as well as making British and all entire UK's economy more competitive on the world market when it comes to perhaps lower cost of energy, as well as for number five, crack down on antisocial behavior. I don't know, there might be an issue there with knife stabbings. I was taking a look at some of the news articles yesterday, how many stabbings are going on. Uh, have reached out to the people who are overseeing a couple of projects, and we're gonna take it from there if we can solve some of those problems. I have put together a project, and if we can, perhaps we can introduce additional measures that would prevent people from getting injured with everything what was happening in Germany, all these kind of things. If that's what they're referring to, right? And number six, recruit 6.5 thousand new teachers. Okay, okay, depending on the area, right? Since some of those areas, as well as I have my own understanding that potentially software can do better work compared to a person. So, not necessarily NHS and teachers. I not necessarily agree that recruiting doctors, recruiting long distance drivers, recruiting teachers, optimal way going forward. I don't think those three steps, just mentioned three steps, I don't think it's optimal since software can do better. So that's, I guess, a pushback. There's won't be enough time, and it's reading entire thing, but there's not necessarily enough time to cover everything in necessary detail, right? But either way, and as well as perhaps there's going to be more things that they would set out to do, but perhaps the time frame that they would set for themselves within the well, 4 8 years is something that they would only be managed to accomplish until somebody else would take over from them, right? As well as so it's more like a balanced perspective, so quote unquote, right? Labour's five missions to rebuild Britain, kickstart economic growth, to secure a higher sustained growth in G7 with the good jobs and productivity growth in every part of country, making everyone, not just a few, better off. Okay, okay. I have why they set target for G7 since some of those governments are developing themselves way faster. So perhaps setting targets way higher. I don't know. It might sound for as a prestigious, but some of those governments developing themselves in a faster rate compared to G7, which is developing themselves well, so very slow. So perhaps targets are set very low. Let's progress. Make Britain clean energy superpower. Okay, okay. So a lot of people are taking a lot of things within this area, but the time frame it's only 6 years, not necessarily enough. Some of those projects can take 15 years, right? So perhaps that's setting a long-term strategy and accomplishing some of the new innovative projects can take 15, not necessarily 6 years, but see what they're doing, which would be important. And some of the strategies including long-term strategies within 50 years. That's more optimal approach to this area. Take back streets by halving serious violent crimes and rising confidence in policy and our criminal justice system at its highest levels. So there's a lot of issues there. I don't know, since some of the data I was taking a look at crimes per 1,000 people, it could be lower, I guess, but I don't know what measures to look into introduce hire more police officers, which might be a waste of time. Perhaps there's other ways to solve this issue. Break down barriers to opportunity by reforming our childcare and education systems to make sure there is no class ceiling on the ambitions of young people in Britain. Okay, okay. So not necessarily, but perhaps there might be some issues there that I'm not aware of, right? Perhaps they know more a little bit about this area when it comes to perhaps childcare, all those kind of things. I'm trying to understand a little bit better, and they're already looking to introduce some measures, right? Build NHS fit for a future. That's how never. What is there when people need it, with fewer lives lost to the biggest killer in fewer Britain, where Evan himself for longer. Okay, okay. So it's ongoing thing. So it's been many years. I would say perhaps 15 years, and nobody seems to solve this particular problem for a cost. So I don't know. There might be more to it, right? When you're delving deeper in the details. I would like to touch on it since there are no points. It's that UK should build their own capabilities, not necessarily purchase a lot of hardware from their partners. And by doing so, they would lose a lot of value since they would need to purchase in other currencies. As well as the defense will be very important, and it's been recognized by the government. So perhaps building their own capabilities and having those capabilities, and perhaps instead of purchasing some of those agreements I was taking a look at, it seems such a waste of money and the entire sector is very complex, right? Where they have replaced new hiring software and all people who was managing this part, where it used to take a year as well as mandatory, if that's the best word to describe it. But look at these people that we need to do some time serving for the government in the military just to match what's happening in the world and what other governments are doing. So increase in spending in the military, which might be important. If they would like to introduce more measures when it comes to perhaps developing engineers within the sector, and then people and or businesses would be able to transfer their skills into other areas down the line after they did their service. I think I would definitely encourage that, but not necessarily. There's all kind of people there, right, doing all kind of things. If there would be engineers, I would agree with that, right? Something that I was taking a look at yesterday, some of those press releases, and is saying Kickstart would potentially be taking a look at a handful of companies and how they can optimize those companies to perform better, as well as they will try to make sure that other people most likely won't gonna enter the market. That would be potentially if we were to take a look at aviation, where other companies like Boeing are stepping back due to many concerns, perhaps then companies like Airbus stepping forward, but there are potentially other companies, just name one, that would be a new introduction of C919, which potentially can overtake companies like Airbus that they're producing and or receiving massive orders. So as well as there's a lot of infrastructure currently being built, so there are a lot of opportunities, and we can take a look at political landscape and how. So if there would be other aviation company, how is aviation company would to be approved within other areas, including Europe and or UK. So perhaps that would be where politics can step in, slowing things down, I guess, or speeding things up, I guess. But either way, how Labour will kickstart economic growth, deliver economic stability with tough spending rules, and new partnerships with business to boost growth everywhere, a national wealth fund to invest in jobs, planning to reform to build 1.5 million new homes. Okay, since we were taking a look at housing, I think still this number is too low, but they would match it. I would say they would need to increase it this number way higher, as well as locations where they're going to be building those. But it's good that they have set these targets, but I think this target is still too low. The devolution of power across England, a new deal for working people. Okay, which might be important. We can track of this and see how they are managing it. Which would be this entire sector is energy, which would be very important, and different energy sources and potential skills, and how we're gonna be looking to deliver those. Which let's see, I have a lot of opinions, right? How Labour will make Britain clean energy superpower, set up in Great Britain energy to cut bills for good. Okay, so since it's one of the highest in the world, right? Okay, so they said they will do it. Just, okay, energy independent from dictators. Like okay. So it should be important, and perhaps there was some projects that I was taking a look at previously, right? Like fracking, which can potentially produce a lot of energy, and there are companies who can potentially do it, but there's a other risk like environmental risk, right? And I think entire thing was set on hold for now, where the UK can potentially produce surplus of energy, right? But there's a lot of pushback for it, and we're taking a look at just one example, right? 650,000 new high quality jobs. Okay, okay, and perhaps with this number of people to train this number of people on new potentially new markets, it can take 5 years, perhaps 10 years, but at least we're putting things in motion. Warmer homes to slash fuel poverty. Okay, that's terrible, terrible, but okay. Okay. Since there are a lot of measures, right? But even to if let's take solar panels and how different ways how we can produce energy, as well as how that energy could be used. If UK is producing solar panels, it's not producing. Okay, windmills and production of energy using wind. UK don't have this kind of capabilities. Partners in Europe have it, and our part of counterparts in China can produce a lot of solar panels. So potentially, when we are taking a look at industrial capacity of UK, it should be important with here. It's not here. so, since we're bringing a lot of emotions and pointing fingers at other governments, what others are doing, the UK should focus on building its own capacity to produce just two areas. Net zero areas is something I'm touching on, but not necessarily touching on that. So but since it's very hard to do, right? Water and companies faces to clean up our rivers, right? Since it doubled, something pollution in rivers have doubled, as well as I have touched on the company who can potentially solve some of those problems. But it's a wider issue and how water has been treated, as well as some of those contracts, and not necessarily those contracts as of now have been managed by UK again. Yeah, since it's already a lot of time, I'm trying to be conscious of time. We need to speed things up, right? That will be how label take back our streets. Crack down on antisocial behavior with some more neighborhood police. So in increasing expenses, someone needs to pay for these police officers from there. And perhaps they're looking to introduce new AI surveillance and measures on tracking people. Then it's privacy issues, right? Where they constantly tracking all of those people. And they're already looking to introduce that in some parts of UK and roll out perhaps nationwide tracking systems of AI. So then costs potentially can go down. So two options, but people will lose potentially their privacy, right? 12 new panels for offenders. Plan to get knives off the streets. There's some of the projects, well, I don't necessarily know if I can discuss those, but there are new innovative projects. Some of those worth of 600,000, where people can support this initiative is something themselves are interested in. Specialist rape unit in every police force. Okay, okay. So perhaps there's more issues there when it comes to perhaps recovery or those kind of things that might be important, I guess. A new network of young future hub. Okay, it might be important, but perhaps they. I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand this very well. I guess perhaps people should focus on other things on, on building businesses. I don't know. I don't know. Next point that would be how labor will break down barriers to opportunity. Recruit 6.5 thousand new expert teachers in key subjects. Okay. 3,000 new primary schools based nurseries. Free breakfast clubs in every primary school. So things are never free, so I'm gonna have to pay for those. Modern curriculums, so young people are ready for work and life. I have so much pushback within this area. It's even math, so people should focus more on math within the UK, where they're focusing on other things, quote unquote, life. not necessarily key areas that would be important when preparing people for life and how to manage finances. If we were to pick one thing, there is not enough attention been put for people to uh, develop young individuals and prepare for life and introducing better understanding and to manage math, finances, or they'll take a look at the completely different areas. But I guess I don't have a horse in the race. But perhaps I'm paying for it, so I'll touch on it. High quality apprenticeships and especially technical colleges. So perhaps we can take a look at that, and there's additional measures being looked at to introduce. So we can take a look at that last point, which might be very important when it comes to reducing time and increasing expertise level. So UK would be competitive on the world stage, right? I don't get this part, but I'll touch it definitely. How labor will build on a chess fit for a future. Cutting the chess waiting time with 40,000 more appointments every week, double the number of cancer scanners, a new dentistry resource plan, which might be important, has been highlighted in parliamentary hearings, where they do not, as of now, perhaps have enough resources to cover this area. There's a lot of measures being introduced every so often, I would say every month, to reduce number and or number of professionals operating in this area, as well as 8.5 thousand additional mental health staff. Okay, so there are some projects that are looking to oversee this area a little bit better, as well as they're looking to introduce professionals in the workplaces who are being trained to oversee this area. But I don't know how much training a person would need to have to support people potentially, as well as the return of the family doctor. Okay, so some of those measures. Let's take a look at it. That would be how Labour will serve Britain, a new ethic and or integrity commission. Okay. Modernize the House of Commons, immediate reform of the House of Lords, reset between Westminster and Holyrood, Cardiff Bay and Stormont, votes at 16. Okay. Is it 16 in Scotland already? So perhaps they're looking to introduce similar measures, which would be interesting for people to get involved in politics, perhaps, and how they save for what the future might bring when it comes to areas like pension age, and perhaps that might be important, right? Let's progress. How Labour will reconnect Britain, unshakable commitment to NATO and our nuclear deterrent. Okay. Standing up for armed forces and veterans. New trade agreements. Well, I would say that's one of the highest security, of course, one of the security measures. That would be trade agreements and potentially expanding to other. This was initial idea. Looking for partners outside Europe. It was voted on. So that would be transatlantic agreements and how those could be signed, and some of those partnerships can be leveraged to make sure that UK would be competitive on the world stage, right? It's a period of uncertainty where most of the people find themselves at as of now. It's not necessarily a good thing, right? Then we're looking for stability, something perhaps this party set for themselves, so that would be predictability, and those agreements can bring a little bit more of that, right? Britain leading a clean power alliance. Okay. They do take part in a lot of initiatives. I don't know if I should mention those and if I should support those, since they might say they will, but I just mentioned a couple of measures, and perhaps building up their own industrial capacity should be more important compared to other areas, right? So just mentioning some of those. So that would be energy independence. That would mean that UK should have their own capabilities to be energy independent, which as of now it's not being discussed, which will be very important. They're looking for alliance or someone else to take A bill? Well, either way, a modernized international development, okay, which would be important. And I was taking a look at some of those articles yesterday that a number of people coming to UK have dropped significantly, including for studying, including for perhaps working, with new measures being introduced, as well as I'm not necessarily seeing a lot of opportunities when it comes to additional measures being introduced, or where but perhaps all these things will change as we go along, right? But we should focus on that if they want. If not, as I have recommended previously, people should stay where they are, not necessarily move and or travel, right? Labor physical plan. Physical rules are non-negotiable and will apply to every decision taken by a labor government. This means that the current budget must move into balance so that day-to-day costs are met by revenue, and debt must be falling as share of economic by a fifth year of the forecast. Costs for labor, additional public services spending are set out below. We can use that last year of the most recent Office for Budget Responsibility forecast, which represents the highest amount cost of the policies. However, we'll begin to put those policies in place from day one of the Labour government, moving as quickly as possible in a way that also ensures value for money for our taxpayers. So we're looking at increase in spending. I want to stop for a second and we can progress. We have not allocated all additional revenue to potential spending. This is a prudent approach in line with our commitment to economic stability. Policies not listed here will be found from existing budgets or do not have a cost, right? So I won't be taking a look at the entire cost, but we're looking to increase the spending. This is how I understood it, right? Uh, let's progress. There's the last thing, and that would be manifest accessibility, and we can close this video on. Let's close on way where you can reach out to this party and or donate if it's something else you're interested, or there might be additional information available on the website, as well as I not necessarily have read entire information that was published, as well as there's additional information and you might be considering in the thorough reading of entire documents available on the labororg.com website. Thanks for watching. See you next one.